May I come in, sir?
Yes, come in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Are you comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Samyak?
Yes, sir.
Are you vaccinated?
Yes, sir. I'm doubly vaccinated.
Okay, then you can remove your mask.
Thank you, sir.
Samyak, give a brief introduction about yourself.
So, my name is Samyak Jain. I come from Delhi, but I've completed my higher education from the city of Mumbai. I did my graduation in English Honours from Delhi University. After that, I picked up a PG diploma in English journalism from IIMC. Then I did a MA from JNU in politics with specialization in international studies. This is my second attempt at UPSC. My hobbies are going for walks, reading non-fiction books and watching movies.
Going for walks, solitary walks.
Yes.
What is the bliss of solitude?
Sir, bliss.
You prefer solitary walk.
Yes, sir.
What is the bliss?
Sir, it means being happy with oneself, not requiring anyone else's company when you're doing so.
Okay. What is the meaning of your name, Samyak?
So my name is also coincidentally derived from the three Ratna of Jainism, Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan and Samyak Charitra. It means right or righteous, as the case may be.
And does it have any correlation with Buddhist festival also?
So there is a Buddhist festival for Dipankar Buddha, which is celebrated in Kathmandu, Nepal. It is coincidentally also named Samyak.
Okay. So who was Dipankar Buddha?
Sir, as far as I know, he was the Buddha, according to Mahayana sect of Buddhism. He was the Buddha that preceded Gautama Buddha.
Okay. Samyak, as you are aware,
Yes, sir.
Telecom sector in India is under tremendous stress.
Yes, sir.
So kindly tell us what are the issues being faced by the telecom sector in India and what government of India has given a package to them to give them relief.
So there are high AGR dues that are due to the government. Most companies do not have the financial capacity currently to pay them out.
How many operators are there in this country presently?
So there are 3 private and 1 government.
Okay.
Apart from that, sir, there is high competition, which is leading to insufficient prices, lower pricing, and there is high cost of capital installation, high cost of spectrum allocation, 4G and 5G, which raises the costs, and the companies are not able to recover that costs substantially. Therefore, they are going fiscally difficult. They are going through a fiscal difficulty period.
Now, what were the specific issues that government had to come in to announce large-scale relief to them?
So the government has done away with the retrospective tax, which was the biggest issue with the telecom companies, wherein they had to pay charges retrospectively. Also, they redefined the definition of AGR, aggregate gross revenues, in which they
aggregate or adjusted
gross revenues.
Okay,
sorry, in which they excluded the revenue from non-telecom sources. Earlier, they also the revenue from non-telecom sources was also included in it, and tax was also due on it, which raised the costs for companies. The government has done away with it. Also, sir, the government has announced a plan to buy equity in return for the AGR dues in companies that opt to do so, but that is a voluntary option.
Okay. And anything to do with FDI?
So the government has announced 100% FDI in telecom sector through automatic route.
What does it mean?
Sir, it means that foreign players can come in and set up their telecom companies in India, or also they can invest in brownfield assets.
Okay. And I believe there has been a cut in spectrum charges also.
Yes, sir. There has been a cut in spectrum charges, and the government has announced a policy to allocate spectrum at the end of each quarter, thus bringing in more stability into the policy of auctioning spectrum, so that the companies are fiscally and financially ready when the auction comes.
Okay, okay. And any your moratorium on payment of statutory dues?
So the government has introduced a moratorium on payment of statutory dues. I believe up to a period of 3 years. I am not sure about it.
What is the difference between the license fee and spectrum charges?
So a telecom company requires a license to operate. So license fee, I believe it's a one-time payment. Spectrum charges are the charges that are paid while allocating auctions. When companies buy auction, I believe they are recurring payments.
Okay, okay. Now, why telecom companies are not very keen on going for 5G technology?
So the reason behind that is that most companies today are saying that they had invested a lot of money in 4G technology, which had come out just five years ago. The 5G technology today will cost them a lot more for installation of the hardware. Also, sir, the government has banned several cheaper alternatives for hardware suppliers such as Huawei. They have only more expensive alternatives available, such as Sony Ericsson and Samsung. Therefore, they are not willing to go for the 5G spectrums currently.
Do you think the country really requires to go for 5G at this stage, when 4G is already so popular and penetration in the rural area is still to happen?
Sir, I believe the better the technology, the better it would be for the country, especially at a time when we see our neighbors, especially China, are increasing their 5G infrastructure, especially in border areas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Samyak, talking about modern history, which ruler of India in the 18th century could identify the colonial intentions and moves of the European companies in India?
Sir, I believe it was Tipu Sultan.
Any other ruler?
Sorry, sir, I can't think of anyone right now.
So, as you have considered that the other rulers could not understand the intentions of Britishers, do you think that in the present times also, many political leaders and political parties are not able to understand the contemporary intentions of imperialist forces in the world or colonial forces in the world?
Sir, today I believe the realm of foreign policy is much more developed. There are foreign policy experts as well. But then definitely there are some countries with intentions that one is not completely sure of, especially when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. Many countries did not expect Russia to actually invade Ukraine. But today I believe it is much more stabilized and much more predictable than it was back then.
See, commercial companies produce goods or services so as to sell it in the market and to receive revenue and earn profit. But these American companies, Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, are offering their services to Indian consumers without asking for any price. What could be their intentions?
Sir, it is often said that when you do not pay for a product, you are yourself the product. Therefore, sir, these companies, especially that you mentioned, Twitter and all, they are big data companies. I believe they gather information about the users and they provide them with targeted advertisements later on, which can make them revenue.
Can the operations in India be emerging or unfolding as a new colonial threat to Indian nation?
Sir, I believe at this stage, the country is well equipped and sufficiently well managed to fend off any such impact. We have the...
I hope the rulers of 18th century also used to believe this.
Sir, today we have the data privacy bill which is in the parliament, which I think can be a very good tool to fight such attacks from companies. Also, sir, we have also necessitated the server localization needs, especially in financial payments, which can also help us better manage this situation.
Okay. So, what concrete measures have been taken to localize data centers in India, apart from legislation you have mentioned?
Sir, I am not aware of all the measures that have been taken.
It appears that the response of the government is very slow and it's lethargic response. A leading industrialist of India had warned the government 3 years ago, and 3 years has elapsed and no concrete efforts have been taken.
Sir, definitely the data privacy bill is languishing in the parliament. It is taking more time than it should have taken. But sir, we also have to understand that these are complex matters. They require proper deliberations from all sections of the parliament as well as the society. I think it would be good that if consensus can be built upon this bill, and that would require more time. And I think the government is taking hence the right steps in building consensus for this bill.
Recently, the World Bank has revised down growth projections for the entire world and particularly for India. Have you read about the latest projection of the World Bank? What would be the likely growth rate of Indian economy this year?
I'm not sure about it, but I think around 8.2%.
That has been revised down now.
Okay.
Okay. And even for China, it has been revised down below their a target of 5.5%, only 5%. Chinese GDP is likely to grow only 5%. Similarly, Indian GDP is also revised down, growth momentum. Now, considering that growth dynamics is being affected by this war and a new kind of world order is in the process of evolution. The Commander-in-Chief of America has also said that the world has entered into a new threat period and a major event may erupt any time. A major event means the Third World War may emerge any time. What is your understanding? What exactly is how to preempt this kind of major incident and to maintain growth momentum of economy?
Sir, I think it is always difficult to preempt such kind of wars. What a country can do is to prepare for such unprecedented events and to maintain both fiscal space and other spaces, so that when such times come, we can fight them off properly. In order to maintain momentum, sir, I think the government has taken the very right step of focusing upon exports, especially agricultural exports. We have seen that the war has caused a shortage of wheat in the world.
But in case there is likely to emerge shortage of wheat in the world and we have started exporting it, our people may face this shortage 3 months down the line, maybe 6 months down the line.
That is not the case, sir. So we have presently 23 million tons of buffer stocks, and more are coming because the harvest season is just started. Sir, according to FCI, the country needs around 7.5 to 8 million tons of buffer stocks. We have very much surplus stocks, which I think can be better utilized by exporting.
Okay, nice talking.
Thank you, sir.
Samyak,
Good afternoon, sir.
comfortable?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what we have seen recently that one of the bill was introduced in the parliament, that is MCD Bill 2020-22. Now, because you are basically from Delhi, you have been staying in Delhi, considerable amount of time have been spent. So, what is the purpose of such bill?
Sir, the bill that was introduced recently seeks to merge the 3 MCDs in Delhi: the North MCD, the South MCD and the East MCD.
So, what is the purpose of?
Sir, the MCDs were originally trifurcated in 2011-12. According to the government, the merger would bring about synergy of resources, better synchronization, better planning, city-wide planning, and hence would cut down costs such as employee costs.
Why the state government is opposing the merger?
Sir, I believe it has to do something with politics of the state itself. I think that the merger of MCD as it was originally would, in larger aspect, would be better for the city, as there would be uniformity in fee structures, in taxes, and there would be better. Currently there are deficit resources in some MCD and there are excessive resources in others. Hence, this synchrony would happen that the resources would be better utilized. Excess employee costs would be cut down. Hence, the budget of MCDs would come down, revenue expenditure.
Okay. So, you are also from Jawaharlal Nehru University?
Yes, sir.
Have you visited PSR? Partha
Yes, sir.
Rocks?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, what is the geographical relevance of Partha Rocks? Could you please tell me?
So, I'm not sure of the geographical relevance. It is hilly terrain. People go there for mountain climbing, and I don't know the geographical relevance.
You don't know geographical relevance? Okay. Now, since you are the student of political science, international relations,
yes,
now last year we have seen that some of the Chinese apps were actually banned. Now, could you please tell me what is the purpose of banning those Chinese apps? What purpose will it serve if we have banned these Chinese apps?
So, there were multiple reasons. The first was obviously the security of the state. They were stealing the data of the users without their proper permissions, and they were giving it to the Chinese army, the Chinese government, which was harmful for the security of the nation. Therefore, these apps were banned. Secondly, sir, it was, in my opinion, also a message to China that they have economic interests in India, and the border issues, if they are not resolved in a peaceful manner, it can have economic costs for China.
Okay. Now, one last question. Chief Justice Ramanna actually talked about National Judicial Infrastructural Authority. Earlier, he also talked about National Court of Appeal. Now, what is the difference? What is National Judicial Infrastructure Authority and what is National Court of Appeal? Please.
Sir, I'm not aware of the National Court of Appeal, but I can talk about the National Judicial Infrastructure Authority. He believed that a separate authority can be set up which would manage the assets of all the high courts and Supreme Court and the subordinate courts of India. It would also have funds for further development of these courts, improving the infrastructural facilities in these areas.
Okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you, sir.
Samyak.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. With respect to education, India's national education policy has been trying to have an inclusive education. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it's going to be inclusive when we talk of person with disabilities also?
Ma'am, the national education policy also talks about increasing accessibility of education, in the sense that more digital form of education would be available, hybrid form of learning should be promoted. I think that could be very accessible for disabled people, because digitalizing education is one of the best ways of teaching disabled people. It also talks about making the infrastructure and schools, colleges more accessible by increasing facilities such as ramps, lifts, etc. So I think one of the key objectives is also to make it more disabled friendly.
Okay. In wake of pandemic, if we look back, a number of students have been deprived of education. When you talk about digitization of education, it also comes with certain economic costs. Do you think India is well placed in that respect, and actually digitization would be a deal breaker for persons with disabilities? Give me your opinion with respect to pandemic also.
Ma'am, when the pandemic struck, ma'am, digital education was imposed upon the country. There is definitely a urban-rural digital divide in the country. Then also there is a class divide as when it comes to digital accessibility. Currently, the government did take some steps such as e-Vidya platforms and setting up some channels as well that disseminated information regarding school curriculum. But nevertheless, going forward, we need to bridge this urban-rural digital divide as well as the class divide. We need to substantially reduce the costs of equipment such as mobile phones, laptops, etc. Also, the internet, which India already has some of the cheapest internet rates in the world, but the infrastructure, especially in rural areas, is missing. So we should focus upon that.
Right. You come from Delhi,
Yes,
and when we talk of environment, Delhi has been in news for all the wrong reasons. Yes, a recent report by United Nations talks about noise pollution, then there's air pollution, and the IPCC report talks about Delhi being the vulnerable hotspot. If I give you enough power for say for some certain time, can you give me just one solution for Delhi to get rid of all these problems?
These are very complex problems requiring a plethora of solutions, and one solution would be very difficult. But if that is the case, ma'am, I would like to increase the greenery in Delhi, planting more trees, because that would cut down on air pollution, and having more greenery around you also cuts down on noise pollution because it absorbs the noise. So that would be my one solution if I have to give just one.
Okay. Coronavirus variant XE has been in news.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what do you mean when you say the letter XE, and is it a variant, a subvariant, and who gives these names?
Ma'am, as far as I know, it is a subvariant of the Omicron variant, and
it's a recombinant variety of which two variants?
I'm not sure, ma'am. Sorry.
Who gives these names to the variants? Are you aware?
I'm not aware, ma'am, but I can take a guess.
Yes, please.
I think WHO.
No, that's not the organization. Anyway, what are the methods through which this particular virus actually produces these variants?
Ma'am, I believe it multiplies in and it mutates. There is mutation in its genes as it passes from one person to another, and this mutation causes newer variants to emerge.
That's one way. Is there any other way?
I'm not aware of it, ma'am.
Okay. My last question would be, when we talk of women reservation in India, we do not see any, great significant head start being made. The bill has been in Parliament for so many years, and at union and state level, there has not been made any headway. Why do you think that such a particularly important topic does not find any importance for our political leaders?
And there can be multiple reasons for that. Even when the constitution was being debated in the Constituent Assembly, there were some proponents such as Sarojini Naidu and all. They believe that women do not need reservation because they are capable enough of coming to the assembly without having a reservation. We have seen that in the past 75 years, the women representation in parliament has slowly risen to the current 14%. It is far below the 50% ratio that they have in the population.
But what about affirmative discrimination? We have that for other margin population.
Yes, ma'am. We have provided them 33% reservation in the 73rd and 74th amendments. But therein we have seen that we have provided them reservation without necessarily providing them the capacities and the capabilities to perform their functions. I believe what is more important is to empower women, not just through political representation per se, but giving them better education, empowering them socially, empowering them financially. And that would go a longer way in helping their cause rather than giving them token reservation in parliament.
Okay, thank you, Samyak.
Samyak?
Good afternoon, sir.
Very good afternoon. Is it correct to state that Universal Declaration of Human Rights came into force before Indian Constitution?
Yes, sir. They came in force in 1948.
Correct. In a specific context of UDHR, Hannah Arendt made a landmark statement which is even today oft quoted. The statement is very crisp and I would like to have your opinion on that. It goes like this: the right to have rights. What do you understand by this very interesting phraseology, the right to have rights?
So the first right means, if in Hindi I can say adhikar. Then the second rights would mean other rights such as right to life, right to liberty, etc. So in the sense it would means that I have a right to have other rights, and that right I have because of my virtue of being a human being.
Now you're from Delhi. Kindly tell me, do we have panchayats in Delhi?
So we have municipalities because it's an urban area.
All right, fantastic. So in that context, there is something called as circle panchayats. Have you heard of that? Circle panchayats.
Sorry, sir. I have to read upon it.
No issues. GNCTD Act of 1991 has undergone an amendment in 2021. It is castigated as one of the most draconian amendments which would perhaps kill federalism, to quote the newspapers. Do you agree with this? What is so problematic with this 2021 amendment?
So the 2021 amendment states that the government in Delhi would mean the lieutenant governor in most cases. So there are both sides to it. There is a positive side to it and there is a negative side to it. So when the pandemic came about, it was realized that Delhi, with its unique situation, but the need for the amendment was felt during the pandemic. There was this direction of the Supreme Court, which was a High Court, which was followed when amendment came about. Delhi, with its unique position, with its high amount of population, and the critical need of...
All right, Samyak, last question from my end. We all consume Netflix.
Yes, sir.
In varied times, in varied hours, and in varied quantity as well.
Yes, sir.
Now, it is argued that Netflix's main idea is to have a cultural hegemony on the gullible minds of South Asians. Now, in this statement, how would you want to use the concept as delineated by Gramsci's cultural hegemony and sort of Netflix using its technology to make inroads into our head?
Sir, Gramsci said that apart from the base and the superstructure, there is the civil society as well.
Correct.
He was known as the thinker of the superstructure, and he gave the idea of civil society, which establishes a hegemony in the minds of the general public in order to manufacture a consent in favor of the ruling dispensation.
Correct.
Sir, in that sense, the Netflix definitely brings about the ideas and the movies and the culture of the West from where it has originated into India. But
on that point, Samyak, US, the fundamental rights are absolute. Whereas in India, it is laced with a lot of restrictions. Don't you see the dichotomy here?
Yes, sir.
And don't you think that Netflix would end up creating vigilantes sitting somewhere in obscure parts of the room and they will go up in the arms in the streets? Don't you think Netflix should be heavily regulated? Heavily?
So I don't think that is feasible and desirable, both. Sir, Netflix has adapted itself to the Indian conditions. It has been investing more in Indianized content, more Hindi movies and more regional content as well. Sir, the recent OTT rules that have been brought out
Good.
give a softer touch to the regulation of these OTT platforms. And I believe that those are sufficient, or more than sufficient, in handling such problems.
Thank you, Samyak.
Thank you, sir.
Samyak, do you think that Litvin's Delhi is culturally different from the rest of the Delhi?
Sir, it does have an elitist touch to it. It was built for a certain section of society, the ruling class, but of late we have seen that the walls are being broken down. The difference between Litvin's Delhi and the rest of Delhi, and for that matter the rest of the country, has been actively, the distance has been actively being bridged.
Okay, one last question. You are Samyak.
Yes, sir.
You embody ethical qualities of Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan, Samyak Charitra, as you mentioned earlier. So with all these qualities, how do you go about handling difficult people?
So first of all, I try to understand them, that the context from which they are coming, the reason for them being a bit difficult. I try to make space for them, to accommodate them if their demands are valid, and if I can accommodate them, then I definitely do. Sir, otherwise, sir, I try to mold them. I try to show them my way. I try to make them understand that why I am saying a certain argument, the reasons behind it. And I believe this communication that I am able to establish with others does help me a long way in polishing those differences.
Okay, thank you very much. Your interview is over. You may go now.
Thank you, sir.
So how was your experience, Samyak?
Sir, I think I was a bit nervous. I could have been more relaxed.
Samyak, if you ask our opinion or assessment of your performance, then it's, in one word, it was excellent.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. You are a very genuine person, very humble, very soft spoken, polite and sincere person. With lot of integrity, honesty of purpose, and your answers also, we could see that you are firm in your answers. That is what is required, and very normal and natural personality you have.
Thank you, sir.
Positive body language. By and large, we did not find you to be argumentative. Most of the time, you remain calm and composed. These are the qualities of a good civil servant. And you answered all questions very clearly and confidently.
Thank you, sir.
There is no reason, according to us, why you should not get excellent marks in your personality test.
Thank you, sir.
You will be getting very good marks. Your interview is on 18th.
Yes, sir.
Your interview is on 18th. Only thing is that with the kind of performance you have given today, the same level of performance is repeated at the time of real interview. You will score very good marks.
Thank you, sir.
And I will not be personally surprised if you are into Indian administrative service proper.
Thank you, sir.
I have nothing much to tell you about how you have conducted and all that, because you kept on engaging board members very nicely, and you answered all the questions by and large in a very befitting manner. Small things I don't want to pick unnecessarily. That doesn't help you or help us in improving your performance. You just maintain this level of performance. Only thing is, what we expect from you is a bit of a smiling face.
Yes, sir. I was a bit
You are
nervous.
very tensed all along.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If the way you are smiling now, if you start smiling while answering questions, it will add to your performance. You appeared very tense, very no-nonsense type.
Actually, I just come in and I had to rush in, and that is why.
So, I mean, if you have understood that, it's okay. The thing is that once you enter the room, you should be bubbling with enthusiasm, with a lot of radiance in your face, a positive body language, and a smiling one. That will add to your performance.
Okay, sir.
Coming to questions and all that, I mean, it's very individual's opinion whether you should be speaking like this or speaking like that, but you spoke your mind.
Yes, sir.
And we are happy about that. You want to ask anything, you are free to ask us.
I think I'm good, sir.
So we'll wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.